What's up, guys? It's Dustin here from the Seeing Red MMA Podcast. As you can see, I'm in a slightly different location here, not doing this from my kitchen table anymore. Kind of moved this out to the living room just to get a little bit more space. As you can see behind me, I got my entertainment set up here. But today, we're going to be talking about UFC 285, Jones versus Gane. This is a enormous fight for not only the sport, but for the legacy of Jon Jones. Just bear with me here. I'm just getting my laptop information pulled up here. But very huge fight for not only the heavyweight division, but for Jon Jones. It's a bit of a 3-year layoff since his fight with said Dominic Reyes that we got going on here in the background. So, yeah, let's dive right into it here. I mean, it's been 3 years since we've seen the greatest of all time grace his presence in the UFC octagon. Should be undefeated, should be 27-0, but is not. But, man, I don't think anybody's had a career like Jon has. Some say maybe Habib has, but I beg to differ. But we're not going to start with the main event for this fight here. The main thing I wanted to go over was, man, these odds for this card are insane. So if you are like me and you like to bet a couple of shekels on the UFC fights here, you might have taken notice. I use DraftKings personally. This isn't a sponsor, but who knows? Maybe one day. But I use DraftKings. This is from Monday is when I logged into DraftKings and kind of set up a parlay here. But, man, it is filled with heavy favorites. To start it off, just to kind of go over the favorite list and then work our way down from there. You got Duplessis minus 230 over Derek Brunson. You got Cody Garbrandt minus 170 over Trevin Jones. You also got Gamrot minus 215 over Turner, who is a plus 185. And then you start getting to the big guys. I mean, besides Jones Gane, that one's, when I looked at it, was sitting at minus 165 Jones, plus 140 for Gane. So if it has changed, I haven't checked since then. I've been kind of busy with work and everything like that. But that was when I checked Monday afternoon. But this is where it starts to get interesting. You got Farid Basharat minus 490 versus Damon Blackshear. Now, if you know anything about the Basharat brothers, that's justified. The Basharat brothers are certified beasts. I mean, I bet on that guy. I mean, he's pretty much a lock in my opinion. But Blackshear's kind of seen as a guy who's a stepping stone, really, because they really have a lot of faith in the Basharat brothers. Whenever you have two brothers in the UFC tends to try and get them both pushed pretty hard. The Nogueira brothers, the Diaz brothers, so on and so forth. But then you got another big underdog, pretty much the same odds. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Geoff Neal. Rakhmonov minus 490. Geoff Neal a plus 390. Then you get into an even bigger discrepancy. You got Valentina Shevchenko defending her flyweight strap against Alexa Grasso. Shevchenko is a minus 600. Yes, you heard that right, a minus 600. And Grasso is a plus 450. Reasonably, understandable though. Champion versus number 6 in the division. I would assume that that's still the case here. But, yeah, and moving on to the biggest odds discrepancy on the entire card is debuting Bo Nickal versus Jamie Pickett. This is Bo Nickal's 4th ever MMA fight. He is currently sitting at 3-0. He is a minus 1,500 versus Jamie Pickett, who is a plus 900. Which is, when was the last time we've seen a debuting fighter have that kind of odds going in his favor? I've never seen anything like that. That is crazy odds for a guy making his debut, especially with only a 3-0 record. But it is somewhat warranted. I wasn't expecting to see a minus 1,500, maybe like a minus 900 or something like that, maybe around like the Shevchenko range. But man, 1,500? That's crazy. That's insane. I mean, if you're feeling frisky, you might as well throw a couple shekels on Jamie Pickett over there, see what might happen. But I personally got Bo Nickal to win that one. But I know it's kind of crude here. Got a piece of paper with some notes on it. Yeah, just to kind of start it off, I'm going to go over some of the fights here that I'm most excited for, starting with Jones versus Cyril Gane. Like I was saying, though, Jon Jones returning after a 3-year layoff after fighting Dominic Reyes, who a lot of people arguably thought Dominic Reyes won. I mean, even looking back and watching the fight that you see here behind me, I, in the moment, thought Dominic Reyes won, but like Jon Jones fashion, especially in like the Gustafsson fight, the first Gustafsson fight, better said, he rallied back and was able to win the later rounds, which, I mean, you got to be a veteran of the sport in order to do something like that anyway. So he definitely deserved the win after watching it a couple of times. Was it close? Extremely close. The closest fight of Jon Jones' career. And Cyril Gane, coming off a big win over Tai Tuivasa in France there, was able to knock him out in the third round. Duly noted, this kind of just popped up on my feed here. I've been hearing a lot of things about Junior Dos Santos kind of saying that Cyril Gane's kind of a dirty fighter. Because you go back and watch Junior Dos Santos and Cyril Gane's fight, Cyril Gane hit him with an elbow up against the fence, and you could argue that it did hit the back of the head, but when you slow it down, you watch it from a certain angle, kind of like an overhead almost, you can tell that it hits kind of like right here in this region, not necessarily flat in the back of the head. I know like they like to call it the Mr. T haircut. Basically, this all the way back, can't hit that. So that's what the refs, I've heard them use that expression more than once, saying the Mr. T. So he didn't hit him anywhere near there, so I don't see why it's justified. But the Tai Tuivasa fight, that's what made me kind of look back and go, maybe there is some warrant to this. And when in that finishing sequence, when he hit Tai Tuivasa with that kind of like shovel hook, he was teeing off against Tuivasa before the knockout actually came, and he kind of came with the hammer fist directly to the back of Tuivasa's head. Now, I know Tuivasa was already rocked, so it's not like that's what caused the finish. It was the following left uppercut that kind of finished him off there, and then some ground and pound punches for the ref to step in. But still, I mean, it is something to note there that I thought was just kind of interesting, especially from a really nice guy like Junior Dos Santos. Doesn't talk any trash, really. So, I mean, he must have really felt wronged if he was willing to kind of step up and say something like that. But nonetheless, this might be... I'm so excited for this fight here. I honestly think that this might be one of the best fights that the UFC has put on. I'm expecting this pay-per-view. I actually wrote it down right here. I'm expecting this prediction for pay-per-view buys. I mean, if I think the old Jon Jones fans, I know there's a bunch of new age fans, kind of the younger audience that hasn't really got to see Jon Jones fight, then I can understand why I wouldn't reach these numbers. But 350,000 buys to 500,000 buys. That's kind of the range I think this pay-per-view is going to sell at. I haven't seen any estimations of what the pre-purchasing has already looked like or anything like that, but man, this is a big card in my opinion. I am so excited. The return of the king. The champ is here. As his old walkout song, the champ is here. But that's a pretty self-explanatory fight. Jon Jones even said it best himself at one of the media days. He outworked Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier is known for embracing the grind and working harder than anybody else in the room. Francis Ngannou outworked Cyril Gane in their fight. And he even pointed out, Francis Ngannou in that fifth round, they looked exhausted. Their feet weren't moving. They were barely keeping up the pace. They were extremely tired, which I can expect from big guys like that, especially when you're using a lot of grappling in a 5-round heavyweight fight. But he made a great point. He's like, you think a guy that I outworked in DC, you think I'm going to lose to a guy that got outworked by Francis Ngannou? And he did use some MMA math there, saying, imagine if DC fought Francis Ngannou, he would outwork Francis if he doesn't get clipped in that first couple minutes, which I agree. I think Francis does get outworked by a guy like Daniel Cormier in his prime. But I thought that was interesting to say. My pick, go on Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones got this. I think he's going to do bad things, especially if you've seen his physique lately. I know he's not ripped, but sometimes being ripped isn't always the best body style to have, especially fighting at such a high level like these guys are. But, yeah, I got Jon Jones. Probably, submission, I think, might be the route he might take, or just straight-out decision. I just got him on a money line with my parlay. But moving on to the co-main event, the women's flyweight championship of the world, you got Valentina Shevchenko defending the belt yet again versus Alexa Grasso, Guadalajara's finest there. And I'm actually looking at it here. It looks like the odds did change just slightly. It looks like Shevchenko moved up from what I thought was, which I had on my paper, a minus 600. Now she's a minus 730 according to the UFC website. So minus 730 for Shevchenko, plus 530 for Alexa Grasso. Yeah, it's warranted. Grasso's number 6. Valentina's a champion. I mean, Shevchenko's nearly cleared out the whole division at this point there. I mean, it's kind of like I would expect, like, those odds. I'm not mad about those ones. But who knows? I've heard a lot of people saying that they might be smelling an upset now. I bet you can find those people every time Shevchenko fights. But, I mean, Grasso's got really, really good hands there. And Shevchenko doesn't really throw punches and bunches unless she's already got her opponent rocked, like the Lauren Murphy finish. But Shevchenko's just so crafty. She's so good with her kicks. She's so explosive. She's also so good at timing and just knowing when to counter and what to counter with. So I personally think Shevchenko still gets the dub. But I wouldn't be surprised if Grasso goes out there and surprises the world. And if she does, wow, what a big win for Mexico. You got Brandon Moreno in January. Yair Rodriguez in the February there, capturing the interim. If you get Grasso getting the belt now, man, Mexico's going to Sizzler. Going to Sizzler, because that's 3 champions in a row that have fought for a belt and won it now. Just this year alone. We don't even know in the years to come. They might be, I mean, we already know how dominant they are in boxing, so who knows if less boxers are growing up down there in Mexico, and maybe more UFC fighters or just overall MMA fighters are kind of taking the journey into that genre. But nonetheless, next fight, the feature fight, which I'm so stoked on. Like Laura Sanko said, this guy gives me the chills. Shavkat Rakhmonov. What a beast. 16 wins, 0 losses, 8 knockouts, 8 submissions. He can do it all. His last, I think I looked at it earlier, like his last 5 fights, none of them made it to the 3rd round. All finishes. I think it was KO, sub, KO, sub. And I think the first sub was before he was in the UFC, but still. Man, that guy is nasty. Number 9 versus Geoff Neal. Number 7 going in here. And Geoff Neal's coming off a fantastic win as well, too. KOing Vicente Luque, which, who does that? I mean, the last person we saw to put hands on Luque and actually hurt him was Wonder Boy, which, no surprise. I mean, it's Wonder Boy. But at the same time, the way that Geoff Neal did it, with just those video game uppercuts against the fence, he was just spamming them, and then those left straight, that laser. Ugh, beautiful stuff. I always love watching Geoff Neal strike, but I feel like he's really kind of just a striker. I feel like he works best as a striker there. I don't think his grappling or wrestling can hold up to what Rakhmonov is able to offer. Can he get it done on the feet if they just kept it standing? Yeah, I don't doubt that Geoff Neal could probably get it done on the feet if they just kept it standing. But I think Rakhmonov is aware enough and smart enough to know that he can't let that happen. He's got to go in there and he's got to make it dirty. He's got to go in there and show off that pretty jab. And either rock him, get him on the ground, maybe knock him out on the feet, or just take him down and submit him like he did against Neil Magny. Either way, I still think Rakhmonov wins. I think he does it in spectacular fashion. He feels like, to me, one of those guys that rises to the occasion. So I can see why there's a lot of hype, especially going through his catalog recently. Somebody posted a thread on Twitter. I wish I could shout you out. I wish I remembered your handle, but it's really good stuff there. It made me really excited to watch him fight and future fights. But that's a great one there. But next up, you got Jalen Turner versus Mateusz Gamrot. Now, we all know, if you've been following since the card was announced, it was supposed to be Dan Hooker versus Jalen Turner, which I thought was going to be a better matchup for Jalen Turner there, having Dan Hooker. But Jalen Turner's on a 5-fight win streak right now. I mean, he's blazing through the division, especially after making his debut and fighting Luque, who is a foe that Geoff Neal has fought. And I think Geoff Neal and maybe Turner have trained together. I might be just making that up, so don't quote me. But Gamrot coming off a loss to Beneil Dariush, where there's definitely no shame in that. Beneil's fighting Charles Oliveira, more than likely for the number 1 contender fight, to fight Islam Makhachev. But, man, that's a great fight too. I would love to see Jalen Turner win. I got to meet Jalen Turner when it was Izzy versus Vettori 2 out here in Phoenix. Super nice guy. I walked up to him. I was intoxicated, as a GSP would say. I am intoxicated. And just to kind of put in perspective how cool of a guy this is, he was in line buying drinks. He hadn't really had... I mean, he's had fights in the UFC, obviously. I mean, that's how I recognized him. But... nobody really was like coming up to him saying anything. There's people in line behind him. He's standing by himself. And I was drunk and I just go, "Holy shit, is that the tarantula?" And he goes, "What's up, dude?" And I was like, "Holy shit, bro. You're huge." The man is tall. He's big for 155. I mean, I just watched the press conference. He towers over Gamrot. It's pretty big size discrepancy, especially with the reach that advantage that Jalen Turner has. But, man, I want Jalen Turner to win. I'm going to bet with him just because I'm betting with my heart on that one. Now, people say don't bet with your heart. This one, I love Jalen Turner. He seems like such a nice guy. I know he's got pet spiders and shit, which keep them shits away from me. But at the same time, though, really cool guy. Took the time to talk to me and my brother while he was ordering his beer. He already had it in his hand and was just sitting there chatting it up with us in between fights at the, I think it was Gila River. Forget the arena name. They change it all the time. Who cares? But either way, super nice guy. I want Jalen Turner to win so bad. But Gamrot, man, especially after that Saryukian fight, just outstanding grappler. I can see why someone would go with Saryukian. Excuse me, not Saryukian, Gamrot. I could see why somebody would go with Gamrot over Turner just because his quality of competition has been so much higher over the years, especially fighting Beneil. Pretty sure he learned a lot from that fight, but that's also going to be a barn burner. But now we get to the first fight on this card here, which, I mean, there's not much to go off of. The man made his pro debut and knocked a dude out in like 46 seconds on the Masvidal promotion there. Not much you can really say off that. Then this wrestler has heavy hands. I mean, he probably fought like a bus driver or a pizza guy, something like that. But either way, I mean, you still knocked a dude out in 46 seconds. That's not easy to do. Jamie Pickett, though, I know he doesn't have a win streak going right now, so I'm just going to see exactly. 13-8. His last fight, he lost to Tuluyan. Not great, really a great fight. But if you look at his fight history, fought Tuluyan. Before that, fought one of the Dacus brothers. Before that, beat Holmes, Ugly Boy Holmes, 5-round decision. But times before that, Tuluyan, 2nd round TKO. Fight before that with Dacus, 1st round submission. So he's been finished and beat each ways, and we can see Bo Nickal finish a fight in each way there too. And Bo Nickal making his pro debut coming off the Contender Series. A lot of people were hyped, especially since this was the second time. He fought on the Contender Series 2 times to get into the UFC there just because Dana wanted to see a little bit more from him, which I completely get. I mean, I would kind of want to do the same thing too, making sure I'm putting all my eggs in the right basket. But great fight. Bo Nickal. I'm kind of riding on the hype train here. If I'm wrong, I'm going to seem like just a dick rider. I don't care. I think Bo Nickal steamrolls him. I think you get a 1st round submission or TKO. Probably submission. So expect that to happen. Expect that first opening fight of the night. Expect it to go by really quickly. But now you get into the prelims here. Now, this fight's either going to make me very happy when it happens, or I'm going to cry for 3 weeks. You got the return of Cody Garbrandt back to the bantamweight division, fighting, which was supposed to be Julio Arce, which I thought was a decent matchup for Cody Garbrandt. But now he's fighting Trevin Jones, who hasn't fought in a while here. Trevin Jones' last fight, let me get it pulled up real quick. His last fight was Hani Barcelos, and Hani Barcelos won. The guy's 13-9, not a spectacular record, but when you're doing it in the UFC, I mean, it's kind of how it goes. But it was only a decision. He didn't get knocked out or anything like that. It was a decision, so no shame in that. Before that, lost to one of the Basharat brothers, so no shame in that either. They're really pushing the Basharats pretty hard. Fight before that, Man, these Avs. These Avs are insane to pronounce. Rakhmonov, if I say that right, cool. If I don't care. Lost by a submission in that fight. And, I mean, he's been around the block. I mean, he's definitely a decent fighter. You got to be decent enough to fight in the UFC. I mean, they're not signing CM Punks anymore, so it makes sense. But then, take a look at Cody's last couple of fights here. His last fight was down a division at flyweight. Got knocked out by Kai Kara France, which didn't really display the best overall fight IQ, but what do we know and love Cody for? He's a showman, so kind of expected that one going into it. So unfortunately, got to watch Cody lose on that one. I did not like it. It made me sad. But good for Kai Kara France. Under that one, you got Rob Font, is when Cody last fought in the bantamweight division. Lost a 5-round unanimous decision where Rob Font kind of picked him apart, which, I mean, I was impressed with Cody's durability in that fight. I think that proves that bantamweight is the right division. Even though he's been KO'd in bantamweight, he didn't get KO'd as easy as he did in flyweight up at bantamweight because Rob Font hit him with some bombs, hit him with some bangers, and he stayed there. He stayed there for all 5 rounds. If I recall, I don't think he was rocked really. I mean, maybe stumbled a little bit. I mean, punches hurt. No way getting around that. But in this case, Rob Font wasn't able to put Cody away, got a decision. And then the infamous Sun Sao knockout. So he's on a 2-fight losing streak currently. Then you got the Sun Sao fight where he knocked him out with a second left in the second round. Then before that, I was at this fight too in Vegas. This also made me sad where he didn't show the greatest IQ. It's when Cody fought Pedro Munoz, got knocked out in the first round when they were just trading right hands and left hooks. And we know who won that one because it always does end up on Pedro Munoz's highlight reel. And, I think that fight, along with the second Dillashaw fight, really, really kind of solidified that, hey, you need to work on your game plan, bro, because it's not good. It's not good if you're just going to stand there with your hands down and trade shots because you want to be a showman. I get you want to be a showman and everything, but at the same time, though, there's a time and place. Fighting in the UFC is not really the time and place for that. Then, like I mentioned, the aforementioned Dillashaw fights. Lost to Dillashaw both times. First fight was a second-round KO. First fight was a round 1 KO. And then, obviously, the fight before that was the infamous Dominic Cruz fight, which made all of us love Cody because he basically breakdanced over Dominic Cruz while Dominic Cruz stood there confused when he's making the ones people confused. So that was a nice change of pace. But now, that's the feature prelim there. So that's the last prelim before the main card. Now, you got a fight that I am very excited for because I like both of these guys. I might be a little bit biased towards one or the other, but you got Dricus du Plessis coming back against his win over Till and fighting Derek Brunson. And Brunson's ranked number 5. Du Plessis is ranked number 10. Du Plessis, I think he's undefeated in the UFC right now. I think he only has 1 loss, and that was in KSW. But we all know Brunson's coming off that vicious loss to Cannonier, which, I mean, getting hit by Cannonier, man. I mean, shit happens. You're going to go to sleep sometimes if you're banging with a guy like that. So I know I wasn't really trying to bang with him, just got kind of caught. But at the same time, though, not an ideal circumstance. Sorry if you hear the street outside my apartment's very close to the road. But not much to talk about that one. Striker versus grappler. I saw someone say, this made me laugh really hard, Till got finished by a guy with autistic striking, which, I mean, autistic's a funny way of saying it. It's just funny. I don't care what you say. It's very funny, but he's just unorthodox. He throws everything with huge intentions. It just rushes forward with straight punches with his chin up in the air. I mean, one of these days he's going to get caught by some of the more upper echelon, probably maybe like a Gastelum catches him with something like that, or maybe even like a Cannonier or Whitaker, Izzy. If he gets that far, we'll see how he does against Brunson in the wrestling. Then, fight before that, I mean, if you care, Amanda Ribas, Viviana Araujo, women's flyweight, number 9 versus number 8. Unless Grasso gets absolutely demolished, Maybe the winner of that one gets a title shot. Who knows? Women flyweights a fucking shit show when you have someone like Shevchenko at the top who's just destroying everybody in that division. Then you got yourself Julian Marquez versus, oh man, I'm gonna mess up your name, dude. I know his name, I just fucking gonna mess it up. Marc-Andre Barriault. Definitely a French Canadian. I can see the Canadian flag there. But if we look at Marquez's last couple of fights here, Marquez is a dog. We love Marquez, especially from the Contender Series with that head kick KO. His last fight was against RoboCop. Now, if you remember that fight, wow, he went in there and put it on. They put it on each other, really, better said. RoboCop got the better of them, so Rodriguez was able to knock him out in the first round with a nasty, nasty shot. Fight before that, he submitted Sam Alvey, who is somehow still in the UFC. I don't know. I don't make the rules, but a guy on an 8-fight losing streak other than BJ Penn should probably be cut, especially when you have... That's literally the definition of autistic striking. I know he can hit hard and he's knocked people out, but goddamn does Sam Alvey suck. I'm sorry, Sam. You're a nice guy, but fuck, you suck. You suck. Pitolo versus Marquez. Pitolo lost via submission in the third round, so seen a couple submissions as of lately. DeChirico beat Marquez by decision. Then you got Marquez's debut. He beat Darian Stewart? I don't know. He's called like the Dentist or something like that. Middleweight, British. Subbed him in the second round. He's a good fighter. Marquez is always fun to watch. I will always tune into a Julian Marquez fight. Then you get into your early prelims. If you're a complete, utter degenerate who watches every single thing on a fight card and regrets it at the end of the night because you've drank in 16 beers and had shots of tequila and you want to die, you got Ian Gary coming back and fighting Song Kenan. Now, we all know Ian Gary is 2-0 in the UFC so far. Last fight did get a decision win, so nothing wrong with that. But the fight before that, that's when he made the statement by knocking out, it was like Jordan Willis, something like that. I don't know. The guy has diabetes. Yeah, this is really a good fight for Kenan. Not really. Ian Gary might win this one because Kenan's coming 2-fight losing streak to Mike Griffin and Potter. Then beat Krantz in his debut back in 2019. Not much you're going to say there other than Ian Gary. A lot of people think he's the next big thing. I don't know. I'm not that high on the kid. I mean, he's a really good fighter. I mean, don't get me wrong. His, wow, I'm blanking. Why am I blanking? Connor's promotion, that double champ where he came from. I don't know. It's the European Fight League where a lot of Brits came from and shit. Dan Hardy, Connor, all those guys, Joe Duffy. But then you got Manya Martinez, Cameron Simon. Cameron Simon, that's another guy from South Africa. I know he trains with Duplessis, so whenever you see Simon on a card, expect Duplessis and vice versa, if they can make it happen, if injuries aren't preventing them. Then you got Jessica Penne versus Tabitha Ricci. Okay. Women's strawweight. Cool. Probably go to the ground. Probably decision, if I had to guess. Damon Blackshear versus Farid Basharat. That's the aforementioned fight I was talking about earlier with the Basharat brothers. This is one of the two. Yeah, this is definitely just a fight to keep him undefeated and in the UFC to build both of their names. Then you got Esteban Ribovics versus Loki Razhabov. Yeah. Just lightweights. Opening up the fight. Not familiar with either of those guys. No shame in that, but overall, just to go through the entire card. I mean, Jones Gane, Shevchenko Grasso, Neal Rakhmonov, Gamrot Turner, Nickal Pickett, then Garbrandt Jones, Brunson Duplessis, and then Marquez and Barriault, I guess. That's how it's spelled. That's how I'm going to say it. Don't care. Gary, Kenan, then after that, kind of just palate cleansers to kind of get you going for the night. But Yeah, I mean, it's a good fight card. I'm going to be watching. I work on Saturday. I get off at 3. The fight card starts at 3:30, so it gives me enough time to come home and crack a cold one. It takes me about 20 minutes to get home, so hopefully I don't have to take a 10-minute shit or something, because I want to be on the couch waiting for it to start. But, yeah, to kind of go over just the rest of the card here, and let me just check something here real quick. All right, perfect. Just want to make sure we're still rolling here. I'm using this new setup here, so I didn't want anything to interfere with me staying on camera and everything like that. But, in other news, Sergey Pavlovich is the backup fight for Jones and Gane. Now, I know it's Thursday night. We just had the press conference. I don't think anything is going to go wrong. That's me knocking on wood just in case, because I don't want John to see a cocaine dealer on the strip and get a little frisky, if you know what I mean. We know how his history is with those substances. But Sergey Pavlovich, I mean, deserves to be the backup. I mean, that's going to put him in the UFC's good graces for being the backup. I know a lot of guys don't necessarily want to do it, and it's kind of training for nothing, but I don't know. I think that's interesting because you have Curtis Blades and Pavlovich fighting here soon. I think it's end of April, if I'm correct. I don't know if I'm correct or not. I'm speculating. I just know that they're fighting. So I think winner of that probably fights after Stipe gets the shot. If Stipe gets the shot, which is another thing I had written down right here. Stipe. Jones versus Stipe. I think that's the fight we've always wanted. GOAT versus GOAT. The best number one pound for pound versus the greatest heavyweight to ever step in the octagon. Some might argue that. Some might say Cain Velasquez, but 4 title defenses in the heavyweight division. It's the most. It's the most. And every single guy he fought, he beat decisively. Like, especially the last Ngannou beat decisively, lost to Cormier, came back, knocked out Cormier, fought again, beat Cormier again in decision. 2-time heavyweight champion. Stipe is your heavyweight GOAT. I don't care what you say. Take that home to your mother. Also on the list, another thing it kind of popped in my head here. Shevchenko. She's ranked number 2 for women's pound for pound because we all know who the GOAT is. It's Amanda Nunes, even though she's coming off of a win over a rival of Juliana Pena, which she lost the fight before. They coached tough. Yada, 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 yada. It's consistency, though. I mean, and the level of talent. I feel like bantamweight for women's was like the cream of the crop when it first kind of debuted and a couple years after that. But man, all those girls that we watched, or women better said, I apologize, you guys are grown girls, which is women. All those girls that we saw, like the McMahons, the Davises, the Tates, they've either moved on to other promotions, moved on to different weight classes there, and you haven't really seen them breach the top 5 since then. That's why I think flyweight, even though strawweight, in my opinion, I think that's the most stacked women division ever, next to women's featherweight. Just kidding. Women's featherweight is complete fucking dog shit. Nobody cares. That's just Amanda Nunes wanting to have a couple extra hot and spices from McDonald's so she doesn't have to cut weight. Go in there and beat up some poor soccer mom. That's all women's featherweight is, a cash grab. It's a money laundering scheme. But I honestly think, like, hear me out. I think Shevchenko should be the number 1. She fights more often. She has the more decisive wins, regardless of what you thought in her last fight against Santos there. And she's just fighting a higher caliber of opponents. Like, when you watch Pena fight, especially in the last one where she's fighting Nunes the second time, dude, oh my god, I know she's a grappler, but that striking is painful to watch. It's a really funny fight, too, because she would, like, run in and be like, and just get clipped and, like, go completely horizontal and fall flat on their ass, and Nunes would just be like, alright, bang, bang, bang. But tough lady, I'll say that. Yeah, I think if Shevchenko wins, she should be number 1. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to say. Shevchenko should be the number 1 pound for pound female fighter, I think. I think it shouldn't even be argued. I think she should have been. I think they should have switched it when Nunes lost originally to Pena. Who am I? I'm just a guy in his apartment talking about fights. So who cares? Sorry if I'm acting a little nuts on this one. I took a couple shots of tequila to hop on to just loosen up. Loosen up, you know. That's probably why you hear me having some indigestion right now. It's a couple hiccups. Overall, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Jones, I had another thing here. If Jon Jones wins, is he number one? GOAT? Does he just go, all right, cool, Makhachev, Volkanovski got the fight for number one contender. Enjoy that for the month that you can until I come back and I reclaim the number one pound for pound, which I think he is, especially if he goes out there and just destroys Cyril Gane or even beats Cyril Gane. I think he jumps right up to number one. But who knows, with the UFC and their rankings are kind of whack, so he might jump up to like 3. Now he's number one. Who cares? I already talked about the pay-per-view prediction buys, 350,000 to 500,000. I think that's it. For the winners matchups, I mean, if the guy, or actually, let me do this first. This will kind of segue into the next one. I have a parlay going right now, and if you're interested, I know I haven't been very successful on my parlays, but I saw a guy on TikTok talk about this fight, so I think my sources are very good. So, starting off the parlay, Bo Nickal, submission round 1. That's a minus 105. Add that on there. And you got Jalen Turner by points, plus 650. Then you got Shavkat, round 2 KO, plus 750. Now, this is where it's crucial. This is what wins you most of your money. Valentina, round 4 KO, plus 2,200. I like it. I like it. And then Jones moneyline, minus 165. That creates your odds at plus 454,560 when I checked it. Which means what I do, like I said before in past videos, bet $5. If I win, I win. If I lose, I ain't sweating over $5. In this case, I will be sweating over $5 if I lose, because this will be a lot of money I missed out on. $5 on that parlay. I looked at the DraftKings payout. $22,733.03. I'm going to say that again. $5 on that parlay I just talked about. Bo Nickal sub, Jalen Turner points, Rakhmonov KO in the second, Valentina KO in the fourth, Jones money line. $5 pays you $22,733.03. Now, is it a long shot? Yeah. Does scared money make money? No. So let's go. Let's see if I can turn that $5 into a down payment on a house. That would be pretty cool. But then to kind of segue into that one there, the winners, if that parlay were to hit, Bo Nickal wins that one. I think, especially if he wins it in dramatic fashion, like a first-round KO. I think I kicked the table. I apologize. But if he does win it in dramatic fashion like that, I think you give Bo Nickal a guy like, maybe like Julian Marquez. That'd be fun. Maybe you give him one of the Dawkins little brother. That'd be pretty good. Oh, wait, no. I think he got cut. Yeah, give him a top 15 or like top 20 guy. Think he deserves it. How much fun would it be if he fought like a Chris Curtis and had to avoid some heavy strikes with a guy that's got decent takedown defense? That'd be amazing. It's really early to tell who I think he should fight if he does win, just because, I mean, it's his first fight. It's his debut. He's such a favorite. It's kind of hard to tell you what I think should happen. But Jalen by points. If Jalen beats Mateusz Gamrot, you give him the winner of Gaethje versus Fiziev. That shouldn't be an argument. You give him the winner of Gaethje versus Fiziev, especially if he goes out there and dominates Gamrot, stuffs all of his takedowns, beats him up, and just wins on a decision, especially if it's like a 30-27 across the board. You reward that man, not only for being the coolest dude I met at UFC fight before, but you also reward him for beating a guy like Gamrot, who just fought Beneil Dariush, who's I think like 22, 23-2 after the Dariush fight, which is not easy to do. Give him a guy like that. Or even, maybe give him Dan Hooker. If Dan Hooker wants that fight. I know he's been getting tatted up lately since he's been injured, so who knows? We might see inked out Dan Hooker. Then Shavkat. If Shavkat beats Geoff Neal, you give him Bilal. You give him Colby. Maybe even give him the loser of Edwards-Usman. I don't think they'll do that just because I think those guys are fighting for titles. They're not fighting to keep their name in conversation, but I know Bilal wants a title shot too, so that's kind of tough. Colby's already had 2 against Usman. Kind of tough there. But Shavkat, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to be commenting, Chimaev, give him Chimaev. Chimaev is probably going up to middleweight, especially after that fiasco with the Nate Diaz fight. I don't think he makes 170 ever again, not in the UFC. Valentina wins. You give her Nunes rematch at 135. You give her a double champ opportunity, and if she wins that fight, then you do a quadrilogy. You do a 4th fight because Nunes is up 2-0 against her, even though the last fight that they had, I had Shevchenko winning, even though it was probably one of the most boring fights I've ever seen. Still, you give her flowers. You let her fight for double champ status. Yeah, I think there's really not much left at flyweight for her, unless Tatiana Suarez wants to stick around at flyweight, which she already said she's going back down the strawweight. Valentina's cleaned out that division. She's done. She's done at that division. There's nothing else for her. Now she has lost some size since dropping down to flyweight. So does she put the size back on? I don't think so. I don't think she just cuts weight and she just relies on speed. Either way, I think before they retire, Nunes Shevchenko rematch. The trilogy for the bantamweight belt. Please, Dana, if you are watching this, and I know that you are, I know you're a fan. You've commented. You've let me know. I'm fucking with you. I wish. Please, Dana. Hear me out, please. You give Shevchenko that 3rd fight with Nunes for the belt. Now, this is a pretty easy one. Jones beats Gane. He either wins, fights Stipe. 2, fights Stipe and keeps fighting. 3, fights Stipe, then retires if he beats Stipe, which he's made all the money in the world. Maybe not with all of his lawyer fees and legal fees and whatnot and all that shit, but I think that's really the only fight for him after Gane. Ngannou's gone unless Ngannou somehow goes, hey Dana, I kind of messed up. Nobody wants to pay me $30 million to box Wilder, Fury, or Joshua. Not even Andy Ruiz. Can I come back? If he tries, I think Francis probably ends up in the PFL just because I don't think he has the star power in order for some Saudi prince to pay him that kind of money. Either way, Jones versus Stipe, that's the fight I've wanted for years. I play it on UFC 4 all the time, and I love Stipe. I don't think I've actually mentioned this. Stipe fought Junior Dos Santos, Phoenix, Arizona, December 13th? Don't quote me. 2013. I know that was the year. I was a little lad. Little lad. Was in the stands. Stipe fought JDS that night. And what a war. Stipe lost a very close fight. Stipe's leaving the arena. His blood on his face. He's got his uniform back on. Back when they didn't have sponsors. Or back when they did have sponsors. He was covered in Bad Boy. As he's walking by our section there. We're not anywhere near the cage or anything. He takes his hat off and he throws it into the crowd. Little old Dustin here reaches to the sky for God to bless him one time. And he catches Stipe's Bad Boy hat. And I still have it in my room. If I knew where it was, I would come bring it out. Actually, pause there for a second. I could probably go grab it because this is pretty cool. I'll be right back. That was easier to find than I thought it was going to be. This is Stipe Miocic's hat that he threw into the crowd after losing to Junior Dos Santos in their first fight. And now, over time, it's faded away. Might not be able to see it at all. Yeah, I mean, it's like a little bit brown. If you can see that, like right there. Like right there. See the brown right there? I know it's incredibly hard to see, but if you do see it, that would be Stipe's blood. Yeah, because he had a big cut on his face there. He's bleeding out of every orifice. Put it on, took it off, threw it to me. I get a bloody hat from the future heavyweight champion who ends up being the future heavyweight GOAT. So that's pretty cool. I'm just going to put that right there. Ain't nothing. It is. It's my prized possession. Next to my signed Dustin Poirier shirt when he was still with Head Rush and he was still at featherweight. So just flexing. Just flexing. Sorry. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Kind of spurred that on you at the moment, getting the hat. But either way, if you watch the videos, you like what I'm doing, I'm getting more comfortable with it so you can see a little bit more of my swagger going on, if I call it that. Maybe just autism. Who knows? If you like what you see, you like the content, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that little notification button. I post pretty much most fight cards. I've done every one since I started this, since the Makhachev-Volkanovski fight. So this is going to be episode number 7 out of the 7 that I've posted so far. I'll definitely get a recap video out, possibly. I know my buddy was supposed to come over here tonight and help me out and do the episode with me. We were going to have some banter back and forth, so that would have been pretty cool. But he had some other obligations. No biggie. He said he might be able to do the recap on Sunday, so I'll see if we can get that one out. Might have it out late Sunday, Monday night, around there. But yeah, it is Thursday night right now. It's about 8 o'clock here in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'm going to go make some dinner. I'm going to get on out of here. So till next time, this has been the Seeing Red MMA Podcast. I am Dustin. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Peace, guys.